Good evening and welcome to a special episode of Inside the FLX. I'm Josh Durso, and as always, we are coming to you from the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls. We have an exciting show today. Seneca County Supervisors Steve Churchill and Paul Kronewetter both join us in studio to talk about the upcoming board meeting and the future of the Seneca Army Depot. Thanks a lot for coming in, guys.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, Josh, thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
So the first question I think that is on everyone's mind is what is the status right now of the Army Depot, and where is it the last 90 days, say, to where we are now? Give us a time capsule of what that's looked like.
All right, I'm going to start off, but I want to start off by saying this, because we're at the beginning of the podcast. If you want to have your voice heard, especially folks here in Seneca County, the number you can call is 539-1700. That's the Board of Supervisors number. If you are in favor of preserving the white deer, just let the person answer that answers the phone know that. The other thing is you can email us at supervisors with an S at co.seneca.newyork.us. The reason I put that up front is that way you don't have to search for it in this podcast if you watch it later.
You can make it real simple. My name is so-and-so. This is my address. I'm in favor of the county taking over the depot to preserve the white deer.
Absolutely. That's all you need to say. All right, to get to your question, the depot. The depot was closed via the BRAC closing in the mid-1990s. It took them a number of years to move all of their equipment and supplies out. The property was then turned over. Actually, the way it works is the federal government asked any other government agency. No other government agency wanted it. They asked Indian Native American groups. No Native American groups wanted it. They then asked New York State. New York State didn't want it. They asked the county. The county didn't want it back in those days. So the Army said, well, the next person on the pecking list is the public. We put it up for public auction. Highest bidder gets the whole property, 10,500 acres and everything on it. The county rethunk their decision and decided somehow they took it and they slid it over to the IDA. It's been in the IDA, the Industrial Development Agency's hands since then, about 12, 13 years. The Army's had a dotted line to the IDA that the Army has continued to, in that period of time, assume a lot of the liability, some of the maintenance. But the Army's mission officially ended the end of 2015. The person that was out there, the sole Army person, retired. So now it's squarely in the IDA's hands, and they don't want it. It's not something that the IDA is really in their mission to do. So they're divesting it. They came up with a bid process in December. There are currently about 57 bids, I guess, submitted. And those bids can be submitted up till the 29th of this month, at which time the IDA plans to open the bids, find the hopefully the best suitable party to take the depot, maybe multiple parties, and then they're done with it. The board, I chair the planning board, so 2 weeks ago before the planning board, I wrote a resolution. I went around to a lot of supervisors to see if there was enough support to do this, but I'm in favor of this, as opposed to turning it over into private hands, which essentially there eliminates any guarantees for the white deer's future. Rather than do that, what I proposed and wrote a resolution to do was to have the county ask the IDA to turn the property, and it's about 7,500 acres now, 7,500, turn it over to the county for the purpose of beginning to work on a plan for the future of the depot. I mean, we're at a crucial stage. Nobody's ever, the IDA, I don't want to say nobody's ever put together plans, but the IDA has looked and developed and worked on marketing plans over the years, but nobody's really looked at any other sort of plan for what we could use the depot for. So I'd like to bring all the appropriate parties to the table, maybe over the course of the next year, and really start to do that deep dive into what can we do to utilize the depot to the best for Seneca County and everybody in the region, and of course right at the top of that is also to preserve the white deer and conserve their habitat.
So one of the things you just mentioned is you said it would involve bringing different people together, bringing experts and all of that. What would that process look like? If if the vote does go through and things do proceed to the next step, what would be the next viable step in the process?
Well, I mean, the first step, I think, is first of all, you got to secure the depot. The depot only has one caretaker out there today. 24-mile fence. There's holes in the fence here and there, so you have to secure the depot. So you have invest just a little bit. There's some public money out there or private money out there to help us do that right at the get-go. The second thing you'd probably have to do in regards to that is you'd have to secure a liability insurance policy, and there's also private money out there that is set aside to help us do that. There's folks that are willing to put up the money if we go down this path. But as far as what does that path look like, I mean, I think it's just that we send out the invites to a lot of the appropriate parties. Finger Lakes Institute led a conversation or a group or a meeting last summer, and some of those parties came to that. And that was under the leadership of Mike Nozzolio. We reached out to Senator Nozzolio. Senator Nozzolio reached out to Finger Lakes Institute, and they hosted a meeting. And there was the New York State Park Service. The members of the DEC were there. Some local, county supervisors. The IDA was there. Some planning folks. So that was the beginning. We only had one meeting. But I think that there's a lot of Nature Conservancy has some folks in Rochester that want to get to the table. National Park Service has expressed some interest. I had a conversation with them a week and a half ago. I think once we get it into the public sector, back in the public sector and out of the IDA's hand, not that they're not a public entity, a lot of folks are going to come forward and want to be part of that conversation. I don't think that's going to be a difficult thing to do.
So one of the major players or major groups out there is definitely the Seneca White Deer, that organization. What support have you guys received from them, or whether it's vocalized support or just words of encouragement in what you guys have been putting forward? Has it been steady? Has it been thorough? What has sort of that been like?
Absolutely. Dennis Money has carried the torch for 18 years.
Yep.
His sole interest, right, is preserving the white deer, first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Right.
That's Kraut's.
That's mine.
Preserving the white deer. How do we do that? Well, public awareness, and that's one of the things that the White Deer organization has done. And they've also raised a lot of money. And I've worked very closely with them. And but I think they're not comfortable in just taking it over all on their own. Dennis has indicated they would like to partner. His first choice would be to partner with the county. Perhaps we do, as we get this thing going, sell a portion of that or turn it over to some sort of organization. But there has been that partnership, and I hope it'll continue. Again, but the big fear is once you turn it over to private hands, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't get it back in. And right now we're at a critical juncture.
So, Paul, before we came on the air, we were talking a little bit about your experience with the whole ecotourism space and how you think it's a really viable opportunity out there. Just tell us a little bit about why you think that's the way at least a portion of the Army Depot should be treated going down the road.
I've been trying to express this for over a year. I spoke at the open space meeting in Avon a year ago in October when they were open for suggestions, trying to convince the DEC or somebody to look at this as an ecotourism opportunity and open space for everybody to enjoy. If it goes into private hands, it's going to benefit one or two people, or sure they might employ a few, but so would ecotourism employ a lot of people. And I related it to the elk herd in Pennsylvania. I'm from Emporium, Pennsylvania originally.
Yep.
This elk herd is a few miles away. I was born in Elk County, put it that way. And they've had such an economic boom down there from people just coming to see the elk. They're, an anomaly in Pennsylvania. And everything I've said about their business plan, which Dennis Money plans on using, is cross off elk and put white deer in there, and the business plan fits perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the articles out of the New York State Outdoor News about the elk herd in Pennsylvania, it says ecotourism has become the region's driving economic generator. During the fall rut, it's not uncommon for 1,000 vehicles at a time to be parked at the Elk Country Visitor Center and nearby overlooks. Built near the top of Winslow Hill by the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the center was erected on 245 acres using $6 million in tax dollars and $6 million in private sector donations. The nonprofit Keystone Elk Country Alliance programs interactive exhibits, a surround sound educational movie, a gift shop, and walking trails. Attendance tops 200,000 per year. I called the North Central Pennsylvania Game Commission regional office down there. That's where it's located. I had a chat with Lieutenant Randy. I can't remember his last name. I said, do you have any figures on the economic impact of this elk herd on the region? He says, the latest figure we have was in 1998. Penn State University did an economic impact study. The 70,000 people that went through the gates to see the elk generated 1.2 million in economic development. He says this year we had 400,000 people go through the gate. So, I mean, it's just a phenomenal economic engine.
Mm-hmm.
And it says nearby quaint restaurants, rustic hotels, wineries, a distillery, and artisan shops have turned Pennsylvania elk watching into a choice day trip about 3 hours northeast of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
This is out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
Benezet, Pennsylvania, and with a wine trail on each side of this depot, a state park right next to it. It's just the perfect spot for an ecotourism industry. Think Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But it's so viable, and it'd be a sin to let it slip through our hands and have a few private individuals.
So, piggybacking off of that, and I think basically what you're saying is that it fits in perfectly with what we're doing already. So why not do it?
Absolutely.
Why not pursue it? One of the things, though, that you're going to hear, the backlash from this, or at least that's what I've heard so far, is this will cost taxpayers dollars. Now, I've heard from Steve that it won't. Either one of you
It's
really
going to
can.
make, what
It generates.
The IDA and a few other supervisors don't think tourism is an industry.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a brick and mortar manufacturing something, it's not an industry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, why they don't understand that the Finger Lakes, it's the second major industry, I believe, other than agriculture, is tourism.
Yeah.
And tax rolls, we got to get it on a tax roll. Sales tax is a tax roll.
Mm-hmm.
I went through the same thing with the outlet mall 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The county board, they had a request from the developer that wanted $228,000, I believe the figure was, to put the turning lanes off 318 into the outlet mall. And everybody on the board, except for Dave Bagley that owned Poplar Ridge Winery, rest his soul, he and I were meeting with a developer. We saw their very successful outlet malls in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was, making my pitch to the board that this is a good investment, they guarantee $3.2 million of sales tax revenues the first year. And the board was saying, we're not going to spend $228,000 on some strip mall that's going to be out of business in a couple of years. And that's what we were working with, similar to where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We held their feet to the fire,
Mm-hmm.
Knocked on doors.
Mm-hmm.
Headlines in a paper, Kronewetter thinks $228,000 is chump change, and we got it through.
Mm-hmm.
They met their $3.2 million sales tax revenue promise in the first 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a cash cow to the tune of $6 million a year in sales tax revenues for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
when they say, oh, this is going to cost us money, it's chump change from what it would bring in as far as tourism tax dollars go.
And I want to add on that. I mean, look at Lago. They're investing $500 million. Why are they investing $500 million? Because the return is going to be huge. The investment is huge. Is there a huge investment to do what we're proposing to do down at the depot? I don't think so. First and foremost, all I'm talking about is let's look at putting together that plan. Let's build that plan. That's not going to cost you much. Most of these folks, if not all of them on this board, right, they're going to sit there as volunteers. They aren't getting paid. There's a 24-mile fence around it today, and for the most part, it's intact. So the site is pretty secure. You don't have to put a whole lot of money into doing anything to just start doing that plan. And the other thing that's important is that, look, we have wineries here. We're going to have a casino here. Folks come to the Finger Lakes for those things. But you don't come and drink wine for a week. And you don't come and gamble probably for a week. When people come, but if you want to get them to stay a little longer, you need to offer them some other things to do besides just drink wine every day. You want them here for 4 days, you offer them something else. Well, the depot, the white deer, the ecotourism, the concert, that is just another attraction. You keep hearing these people, when I say these people, folks, when they refer to Lago and talking about people that are going to come here and view the other attractions, this is going to be another attraction. And it's going to draw a lot of people.
And that's one of the interesting things. I think you have really spoken to, and both of you really have. The time is right.
It's short window. I mean, the government moves slow, right? We have a committee meeting. It's got to come out of committee. 2 weeks later, the full board moves on it. So if you miss moving on something that's really, really, really important, without having special meetings, you're waiting another entire month. Well, a lot happens in the month, and in this case, the IDA is closing those bid receipts on the 29th, and they might just start opening them. And like I say, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't get it back in. So we need, and we're getting a lot of pushback. I mean, there is a lot. The other thing is the liability issue, right? People are there's board members that are just scared to death of the depot. There's all sorts of issues with the land, and that's not true. I mean, the Army's been cleaning it up for 15 years. There are areas that will remain under the Army's watchful eye and the government's responsibility probably forever. But there's a huge, vast expanses that are good for ecotourism. It's good for some things. If there's really a concern about liability and maybe the dangers of the depot, I don't see how we could ever allow or turn it over to, if those are legitimate concerns, how can we even consider giving it to a farmer and letting cattle feed on that contaminated ground, right? I mean, so you can't have it both ways.
Yep.
But now is the time. It's critical, and that's why people need to contact. Really, in the next few days, the window's closing. Tuesday's the vote. They need to get to the meeting Tuesday night at the county. They need to contact the supervisors. They need to contact their town supervisor if they care about these white deer and say, we want you to vote to take this thing over.
So I would just like to quickly break in here and welcome Dennis Money to the studio. Thanks for making it out here. We know it's a little bit of a drive for you from Canandaigua. He is the president of Seneca White Deer. For those of you who might not know who he is pretty well known around here now that the push here has been taking place for the Army Depot. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you represent.
Well, I've always been involved with conservation. When I worked at Rochester Gas and Electric, I was a principal environmental analyst and was the guy that came up with the idea of raising peregrine falcons in downtown Rochester. And eventually that became a big issue because we made Kodak famous at a time when they were being ostracized for environmental sins, and this was something good that they really liked, and it was a positive image for them. And then I went on to do the River Otter Restoration Project with the DEC, and along the way I thought I needed another challenge, and for 18 years this has been my challenge, trying to convince the leaders of Seneca County that you have a unique resource here that could be transformed into a major ecotourism asset for the county, and obviously bring some positive notoriety to Seneca County as well.
So you talk about some of the things that you guys have been, it's been an 18-year challenge, as you say. Yes. Talk about some of the things that you guys have done over that 18-year period to raise awareness for this and sort of champion the cause, so to speak.
Well, we've done tours. We're allowed to do tours by the Seneca County IDA in 2006, 2009, and 2012. Sometimes that we were given some really tough constraints to deal with, and we got through all of those constraints. And I have to tell you that in those 3 different years that we did the tours, every single seat, every single time was sold out. We had people come from all over America to enjoy this the white deer, and then when they got inside the depot, they learned about the military and the civilian history. And at the end of the 1.5 or 2 hour long tour, the evaluation showed that the people liked the history as well as the seeing the white deer. But I think the other aspect here is that we grossed $125,000 in 11 weekends, and not only did we benefit, and by the way, the profit from that went into our capital fund. We don't keep it; we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
But we also had tremendous spillover effects into the wineries, into hotels, gas stations, restaurants, and the same thing could happen here again if we could get the tours on a major and a full-time basis.
Absolutely. So they've talked about the timing of how it's definitely the right time to act on it from the public's point of view. What is your case must be pretty similar to theirs as far as what there is to be made for the communities in Seneca County. What do you think is the most important thing for people to remember this weekend heading into this big vote on Tuesday with regard to the Army Depot? Is there a call to action?
Oh, there's definitely a call to action because, this is a critical vote. If the county was to take over the depot, Seneca white deer has a better opportunity of working with the county than we would trying to go through the IDA bid process. And very honestly, we can't compete financially with the several of the large farmers that are rumored to be bidding on this process, as well as the Amish community. And I think not only that, but the fact that we have the expertise from the tours that we've already done, as well as we do have wildlife biology experts on board. And I think we will have the best business plan and the best professional consultants to help upgrade the deer herd. On Tuesday, I flew over the depot and we counted the white deer from a helicopter, and we counted between 75 and 80 white deer, which is a dramatic and a drastic change in what the last census conducted back about 7 or 8 years ago, when they counted about 185 to 200 white deer. So there's been at least a 60% decrease in the deer. But the good point about even 75 animals is that you certainly have enough seed stock to maintain and also to improve the herd if we are given the chance. I don't see the farmers and deer getting along too well. They're not very compatible, but I think our organization is.
So this is an open question for all three of you. We're just a few days before the meeting. What is your final message to those who are watching, who live in Seneca County, who are concerned, they want to be involved? What can they do?
Contact your county supervisors. We're real close to having the majority of a weighted vote to get this done, but there's a couple supervisors said they were going to vote for it. Mr. Shipley at the committee meeting changed his vote at the last minute. I'm just saying, don't be afraid. Ask the questions, what are you afraid of? Hopefully we'll have the answers.
I would say these are our deer. They belong to us. This asset really, at this point in time, belongs to all of America. I mean, the United States took over the property in 1941. The IDA's had the oversight of it for the past number of years, but they're getting rid of it. This is still ours. I mean, these deer are ours. If we want to protect them, and it's an extremely valuable resource. It's the only place a herd like this exists of this size in the entire world. I mean, think about that. It's funny because so much support has been coming in over the past week, but a lot of it's coming in from the outside. We're in the woods here, and we just don't really see or appreciate the value of those white deer, and it's shameful. But Seneca County needs to step up. And I'll say this weekend, I'm going to give Tops a shout out because Kraut and I last week spent, and I should call him Mr. Kronewetter, Supervisor Kronewetter.
Nobody else does.
We spent last Saturday around this county. We went to all the municipalities in the south, distributing information. I stood out in front of the IGA in Ovid for a couple hours while Supervisor Kronewetter visited some of the businesses, talked to people. Very, very favorable response. Very few people, want to see the deer gone. I mean, that's true. This weekend, the only major business that we approached in the north end that said absolutely you guys can hand out brochures was Tops.
Yeah.
Not Walmart. You can call 1-800-Walmart if you want and fight with them. But Tops said yes. 2 managers inside there. So we will be there this weekend. I will be there. If people want to talk to me, I'm going to be handing out information, trying to get that those calls and those emails to our supervisors. That's what they need to do. The folks in this county need to call the county, call their supervisors, and send just a brief email with your name, where you live, and that you want these deer preserved.
And as a reminder, we will be putting out, along with this podcast, will be an article, and I will be putting all of the contact information that you have given in that article.
Beautiful.
I'd like to thank you guys, all 3 of you, for stopping in. We really do appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck this coming Tuesday.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you
very much.
Hopefully we'll see you guys there.
Yes, we definitely will be there.
Standing room only. Get there early.
The world is watching. So.
Our world.
I've heard
is
that
watching.
before, yes.
As a reminder, though, I'd like to ask everyone to take a look at or come out to the Seneca County Board of Supervisors meeting this coming Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the Seneca County building on the 3rd floor in the Supervisors room. Plan ahead. Like they said, it's going to be packed, so get there early. In the meantime, though, remember to check out FingerLakes1.com for the latest news and continued coverage of this issue and many more. For Steve Churchill, Paul Kronewetter, Dennis Money, I'm Josh Durso, inviting everyone to join us next Thursday on another episode of Inside the FLX.